News now begins in the west of the continent, where Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has approved 70,000 naira as minimum wage for Nigerian workers, with a promise to review the wage every 3 years. President Tinubu also promised to find ways to assist the private sector and state governments to pay their wages. This was at a meeting with leaders of the organized labor unions comprising the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress at the State House in the nation's capital, Abuja. Nigeria's Minister of Information made this known to State House correspondents in Abuja.
Happy to announce today that both the federal government and the organized labor have agreed on an increase on the 62,000 naira minimum wage. The new national minimum wage that we expect Mr. President to submit to the National Assembly for legislation is 70,000 naira. But that is not all. There is also a boost, like Mr. President has assured, in ensuring that massive investment is going to be made in the area of infrastructure. There is also a deepening of the investment of the federal government in renewable energy. More money is going to go into the acquisition of more buses, the CNG buses. Nigeria is going to be more CNG compliant, according to the president. We are moving in this transition to renewable. And all other things that Mr. President has assured labor, the issue of SANU and NASU is also going to be looked at. And we are happy, we are very thankful of the role that the organized labor has done today.
Mr. President assured all Nigerians that he's their president and would not disappoint, and he has shown that this afternoon. Recall that Labour saw Mr. President last week, and they asked that you should give them 1 week to consult more. And of course, at the end of the day, the consultation came very fruitful because Mr. President said he has to be a father, that it's not issue of law who is right or who will blink the first, that he is our father, like he always said.
The good thing about it is that we will not wait for another 5 years to come and review. Rather than accepting on a figure that you wait for 5 years, it's like you have to now negotiate even 2 times within 5 years with a view to going up. That is one of the reasons, why we decided to reach where we are today, because of the proviso that, you can review in the next 3 years.
The National Assembly is set to receive an executive bill on the new national minimum wage on Tuesday, following an agreement between President Bola Tinubu and labor leaders for higher worker remuneration. This is according to Special Advisor to President Tinubu on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, who confirmed that the lawmakers would receive the executive bill on the new minimum wage by Tuesday to ensure the agreement is legally binding and ready for implementation. Earlier, a public affairs analyst, Dotun Ojon, spoke to us on the news about this development.
Of running a business in Nigeria today, it's become extremely difficult. And in Nigeria, for instance, we have about 25 modular refinery. About 10 of them are working. But in the past few months, they've been finding it difficult even to get forex, to be able to get crude. So the private sector is finding it a bit difficult to run business in Nigeria today. So to consider them is actually a big thing. And if you look at the percentage of people really that are in government payroll, you discover that the chunk of the people that will benefit from minimum wage are actually from the private sector. So it makes a lot of sense that we are not just hovering around figures. It makes a lot of sense that we are not just being adamant on a figure. It makes a lot of sense that we are bringing everybody within the discussion community together to be able to achieve this. So for the private sector, I actually support the government on that.
The Confederation of the All Progressives Congress support groups have accused organizers of the upcoming nationwide protests over alleged bad governance of trying to distract President Bola Tinubu. The Director General of the support group says that the rise in food prices services and other goods across the country is being addressed by President Bola Tinubu and called for patience among citizens. He called on citizens to cancel the planned nationwide protests, saying that about 20 trucks of rice have been approved for distribution in states, while all theft, which is taking a toll on the nation's revenue generation drive, is being brought to an end.
These happenings in Nigeria need synergetic dialogue with Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for a mutual template that can robustly ensure hasty remedies in terms of not only high food insecurity, but also on internal land, airspace, and our porous borders security that has not been there in our dear country. This is why the Confederation of all APC support groups strongly stands against any ill-advised group of persons or individuals to organize and stage a nationwide protest against the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu under any guise, because it is a distraction that is loaded with landmines. It started already in Kenya. Since that time, it has reached everywhere now. They are burning, killing people. When you start...
In the meantime, members of Nigeria's House of Representatives have agreed to slash their salaries for the next 6 months by 50% and donate such to government to help address the current hardship being faced in the country. This was as they appealed to organizers of the proposed nationwide strike expected to commence on August the 1st to shelve the strike, maintain peace and embrace dialogue. News Central's Joshua Imarai brings us this report.
Another plenary by members of the House of Representatives. They are appealing to Nigerians to shelve the planned nationwide strike, which is supposed to begin on August the 1st, and embrace dialogue with government at all levels. They also warn any protest cancelled will create tension and undermine the nation's security.
Appeals to the proponents of the proposed nationwide protest in Nigeria to consider a different path, a path of patience, dialogue, and collaboration to prioritize the line of peace and open channels of meaningful engagements with the government.
Anybody or every organization that is organizing protest is definitely undermining the peace and unity of our dear country.
DSS has to must work hard to find if they can at least be able to scout and get those people that are instigating or the leaders of these protests so that they can dialogue, we can dialogue with them. Let's talk to them.
The members of the House say they have agreed to a 50% reduction in their salaries for a period of 6 months in order to support the government's effort in alleviating widespread hardship being experienced.
Moving that we amend that prayer to include that members sacrifice maybe 50% of our salary for a period of 3 months or 6 months to help Nigerians and to show that we are in support.
The lawmakers also urge Nigerians to be patient with government policies, assuring them that with time, the situation will improve positively. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Let's now give you an update on the situation in Benin, the capital of Edo State, where what would have been an entirely joyous event turned bloody. 2 persons were reported to have been shot dead during the reception for the Deputy Governor of the state, Philip Shaibu, who was earlier this week reinstated by the court. Large crowd of supporters had gathered at the Benin airport to receive Shaibu and the APC governorship candidate, Senator Monday Okwebolo. Reports say the gathering were attacked by armed thugs who fired gunshots, leading to the death of a police personnel and another supporter of the deputy governor. Available video shows the crowd processing on the street with a lifeless body in the open van. Edo State will be voting in a very heated governorship election on the 21st of November after the deputy governor had failed to emerge as the candidate. Police say investigations have commenced into the circumstances surrounding the shooting and killing on Thursday. Meanwhile, a chieftain of Nigeria's ruling All Progressives Congress and former member of the House of Representatives has accused the Edo State governor of victimizing his deputy, Philip Shaibu, saying the impeachment, which was recently voided by the Federal High Court in Abuja, was a political witch hunt. The former lawmaker and current director of contracts of the APC Governorship Campaign Council in Edo State says that the ordeal of the former deputy governor is a show of political intolerance and intimidation by the governor, and urged citizens of Edo State to reject the display of dictatorship during the upcoming governorship poll.
That impeachment has all the trappings of political intolerance, political intimidation, an act that was calculated to subject the young man to the whims and caprices of the emperors that have taken the state by its jugular. If you look at the accusations against Philip Shaibu, which were the grounds upon which the esteemed House of Assembly, where we served, at the threshold of this republic, found itself grappling for evidences and offenses against the deputy governor in order to be able to impeach him. And the evidences they could gather was that the deputy governor, Philip Shaibu, revealed official secrets, government secrets. The deputy governor, Philip Shaibu, lied on oath.
To speak to us now on the planned mass protests and lawmakers warning against the action, thereby slashing their salaries by 50%, I'm joined by Public Affairs Analyst Chris Akwarandu. Hello, Chris. Thank you for being with us at this time.
My pleasure.
All right, so let's have your thoughts on this. How will the allocation of 648 million naira and the 50% salary cut by the House of Representatives impact sufficiency and cost reduction, especially when it comes to, food supply?
Slashing of salaries is mere tokenism. The mass protest for what? You want to copy what happened in Kenya? Why do you have to do that? This is our country. We know the problems in our country, and we know we can solve the problems with our country. The issue is, how do we drive down inflation? All right? And then you know that more than half of the inflation is caused by food inflation. And then we do know that about 40% of food items were lost due to flood last year. We also know that we're having a problem with banditry, with burglary, with kidnapping, with, driving farmers out of the farms. Okay? So these are the problems. How do we produce food to feed our people? That's very important. We also do know that the government had decided to give a 150-day window for importation of food, which they would have done, but then they were trying to protect the local agricultural industry. Okay? But that is a very good move. So why are you protesting? Why do you have to protest against freedom? It doesn't make sense. We do know that our problems are internal and we can solve our problems.
Okay, now, but talking about our problems being internal and we can solve them, it's something that has been said for a really, really long time. I don't even know. I can't even begin to, count how long. And it seems like, it's not working. And this is the reason why I think Nigerians are planning to protest, not to copy Kenya, but to actually push home, their demands and push the government to, do more for the citizens. And, like I said earlier, we actually have the lawmakers slashing their salaries. And for some people, they actually feel it is a political stunt. So, but I want to hear from you what you feel about this. So do you think that these lawmakers are genuinely willing to make personal sacrifices for the greater good?
Well, it's possible they're genuine, but as far as I'm concerned, it's not necessary. What is important is making things work. If they slash their salaries by 50% for the next 6 months, are they going to keep slashing it? They will not slash it continuously. And there are other ways they get money. So they're not even going to feel it. They are just talking about their salaries, whatever their allowances, etc., etc. So they still have a lot to spend. That's not the issue. The issue is, what are the basic things? Basic problems are, one, stopping insurgency, stopping all forms of insurrection around the country and kidnapping so that farmers can go back to farm. Two, making available farm inputs. That's very important. And that includes fertilizers, seedlings, okay? And that also includes making sure that irrigation facilities are available. That also includes improving welfare in the research institute so that they can research into good seedlings, high-yielding varieties, and then giving incentives to farmers at no interest rate, okay, so that farmers can farm. Then we need to have link roads from the farming communities to the town centers or cities so that farmers can bring their products there. We also need government to buy up some of these food items and store, because our silos are empty. So we don't have stored food items. So these are basic things. And we need to invest in agriculture. We need to invest in farm settlements again. We need to bring back farm settlements. We need to bring back supervision of farmers. We need to think about how to make farmers comfortable where they are by stopping kidnapping, all forms of illegal activities going on within the farming communities, farmers' headers clash, and so on. So we need to stop all these things so that farmers can concentrate and farm, all right? And then the products will be taken to the cities. And if there are excesses, government should be able to mop it up so that government can release these food items in terms of scarcity. Okay. These are basic things we need to do. It's not just about slashing your salary by 50%. That's tokenism. And it's not about mass protest because
Chris.
we know what the...
Yes. All right, Chris, now just to add to what you've actually said, the Confederation of the All Progressives Congress support groups have actually said that another reason why they would love the mass protest to be squashed is because 20 trucks of rice have been approved for distribution in all states, and also that they're saying that oil theft, which is taking a toll on the nation's revenue generation drive, is being brought to an end. Now, these measures have actually been put in place for a long time now, for a while now. What significance will they make now in addressing the current economic challenges that's been faced?
Well, it's simple. It's just immediate, trying to get the people to get some food to eat within a month or at most 2. That's not a long-term thing. Yes, it's a short-term.
Hello, Chris, can you hear me? All right, thank you so much, Chris, for your take. Now, moving away from that, operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency have intercepted 7 containers bearing 1,229,400 bottles of codeine syrup worth over 9,835,200,000 naira at the Port Harcourt Ports Complex, One, Rivers State. This is coming barely 3 weeks after seizing 6,125 cartons of same substance worth over 7,350,000,000 naira at the One port. Spokesperson for the NDLEA, Femi Babafemi, made this known in a statement on Friday, saying that the latest seizure, which was made on Thursday, is the 4th and last set of such consignments that have been under the watch list of the agency. Stakeholders have called on government to invest on solutions that can end violence in conflict areas in the country. This was during a workshop in Abuja, which reviewed ways and methods currently being deployed to address patterns of violence, injustice and criminality across several communities in Nigeria, organized by International Peace Building Organization, International Alert and the Borno State Government. Amadin Uyi reports.
The workshop had in attendance stakeholders called from the public and private sector across several regions of the country.
An event like this offers us an opportunity, saying that we have such a broad spectrum of stakeholders, to be able to look at all the efforts we have been putting into the problem of insecurity in the country, number one. And secondly, to also compare notes, because this will enable us to have a greater understanding of the context and all the causative factors that have brought us to where we are now as a country.
The overriding objective of this meeting is that we identify very key resolutions of what's going on in different regions of Nigeria, because working in silos is actually counterproductive. It's always good to establish peer learning opportunities like this, where we all together assess the drivers of injustice, violence, and insecurity across the country.
The workshop x-rayed patterns of violence, injustice, and criminality. Stakeholders also reviewed the role of women in peace-building efforts, saying their contribution to the process has been observed to have longer-lasting effects on the entire process.
Canada sees gender equality as a good foundation for a more peaceful world. We've seen in different contexts where gender equality is lacking, that often states are more likely to be unstable. Meanwhile, peace agreements that have women meaningfully involved in their negotiations tend to endure longer.
These three themes of violence, injustice, and criminality is actually an intractable problem that we are grappling with in Nigeria. Whatever region you look at is grappling with these three themes. So we carefully selected these themes as something that cuts across the whole country, that affects all of us.
The country director of the International Alert expressed optimism that the workshop will identify solutions to problems causing violent extremism and insecurity in the country.
The meeting will aim to identify solutions to these issues, and part of those solutions is establishing exit pathways. Exit meaning that what are the ways out of these three teething problems that we are facing in Nigeria. Whether you talk about amnesties or you talk about using a kinetic or non-kinetic approach, or actually increasing access to justice in communities whose rights have been violated, all these different approaches are being tested in the different geopolitical zones, and we want to pull all these ideas together.
The workshop was also an opportunity for stakeholders to share experiences and workable solutions by governments in crisis-prone areas across the different regions of the country. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Thank you, Amadin, for that report. Now, 1 week after Abia State Government announced its readiness to commence the enforcement of ban on street trading, not much has changed. The State Commissioner for Information and Culture, Oke Kanu, had told journalists in Umuahia that the government was planning to stop all manner of trading along the roads and undesignated areas. News Central's Chinwe Ogele reports.
24 hours after the comments from Commissioner Oke Kanu on street trading ban enforcement, the harmonized task force moved into action, putting up barricades at locations not originally meant for buying and selling. You can see the road behind me is now quite clear and vehicles can move, other than what it used to be some days ago when traders littered the streets, the roads with their wares. However, a few days later, the areas marked for ban have been fully occupied once again as trading resumes. The plan to move the traders out of their current locations is not a threat to them, knowing that there will be an option provided by the government.
Can provide an greener place for us. It's good. If you can go urban, so as far as you can doing business, it's fine.
I know that before Governor live here, I know he will provide a better place for us to stay before he lost.
They are unwilling to relocate to the Umuahia main market at Ubani only because of distance, which may not be a good development for the market and occupants.
That Oban, we've been there and it doesn't work for us, to be sincere. People find it difficult to come there to patronize us. So that's why we are asking our governor, because we know he's people's governor, to at least look for a place that will be around the town for us to go in.
Even the state government is heeding to the demands of the traders to remain in the city center when relocated instead of moving to Ubani.
Will they remain at the positions where they are now, or is government making alternative plans to relocate them to another market?
The policy of the government is to create orderliness around that cluster. The government have also made provision for a space where these people will be relocated to, because actually you can't move them away without providing an alternative, and that because when they don't have alternative, that's when they start hanging around there.
Until the proper relocation of these traders, the Harmonized Task Force has a huge task of controlling likely surge that will cause obstruction from traders and commercial motorists on the road. In Umuahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugili.
Electronic waste describes discarded electrical or electronic devices. It is a major waste that people usually don't talk about, but Lagos State is taking steps to put it far ahead of other states in Nigeria and other countries in sub-Saharan Africa in terms of the management of electronic waste and converting them to wealth. News Central's correspondent Bettina Nweli reports.
Lagos, a city thriving with technological advancements and a growing population, faces a huge challenge in handling electronic waste or e-waste. E-waste is one of the fastest growing waste streams in the world, and Lagos is no exception, as discarded electronics can pose serious environmental and health risks if not managed properly.
For us as a state to handle our waste. But if you handle your waste positively, you are fixing the global ecosystem as per the environment. And municipal waste is key. Electronic waste is key. We're not talking about it. But it's an integral part of the waste system. And I'm glad we did a lot of projects with Netherlands. Harvest waste is taking up a major leg of it for us. That's waste to energy. And now, closing the loop, I've come forward to say
the Lagos State Government, through the Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources, is taking a gigantic step in managing the vast deposits of electronic waste in the state with the signing of letter of intent with a company from the Netherlands for the establishment of a smelter plant in Lagos. This initiative is important in improving e-waste management in line with international best practices and the economy of the state.
So, signing this letter of intent is also a positive step for us as a state to handle our waste. But if you handle your waste positively, you are fixing the global ecosystem as per the environment. And municipal waste is key. Electronic waste is key. We're not talking about it. But it's an integral part of the waste system. And I'm glad we did a lot of projects with Netherlands. Harvest waste is taking up a major leg of it for us. That's waste to energy. And now, closing the loop, I've come forward to say we shall take up electronic waste and convert them to waste.
The improper management can affect the environment badly. Lagos generates 13,000 tons of waste daily. 1/3 of the waste will now be converted to waste to wealth, another 1/3 goes to waste to value, while the last part is converted to waste to energy.
I strongly believe that the government and the agencies in charge,
they are going to be buckled up and make sure that they tidy up the street. Don't allow the street to be, littered with waste. And then now, even the waste is now, they talk about the issue of waste to wet now. So there are so many benefits that they can derive. The only thing is that when you have resources enough to transform what we are taking as waste even to wealth.
Recycling e-waste not only helps to conserve energy, but it also recycles natural resources like copper, silver, and aluminium. Many of the metals used in our gadgets are rare earth metals that are in limited supply. When they are recycled, they can be reused instead of having to mine for new supplies. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Mwili.
Still in the west of the continent, the office of the medical charity Doctors Without Borders came under fire during an attack on the town of Jibo in northern Burkina Faso. According to the NGO, the building bears visible bullet holes and medical structures belonging to the Ministry of Health, supported by MSF. A water distribution site have been vandalized, but its teams and patients were unharmed. MSF condemned the violence and called for respect for humanitarian spaces. Jibo is close to the so-called three-border zone between Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, where jihadist groups are active. The town has been under siege for almost 2 years. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa committed his new coalition government to growth, job creation and poverty reduction as he opened parliament following the first elections in which his ruling ANC lost its absolute majority. Addressing a joint sitting of the two houses of parliament after a grand opening ceremony, Ramaphosa also listed tackling the high cost of living and cutting red tape among his administration's goals. He also promised business-friendly reforms such as an overhaul of the graft-ridden public service and to massively increase investment in infrastructure.
Committed to improve the well-being of our country and its people through inclusive growth, the creation of jobs, and the reduction of poverty. The Government of National Unity has resolved to dedicate the next 5 years to actions that will advance, firstly, to drive inclusive growth and job creation. Secondly, to reduce poverty and tackle the high cost of living. And thirdly, to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state.
In other news from around the world, a widespread global outage has forced various businesses, including banks, airlines, telecom providers, broadcast networks, and supermarkets, to cease online operations. Reports indicate that major U.S. airlines such as Delta, United, and American Airlines experienced a system-wide ground stop on Friday morning due to a technical communication issue. In the UK, Govia Thameslink Railways four brands Southern, Thameslink, Gatwick Express, and Great Northern reported widespread IT failures impacting their services. Australia's Telstra Group, a telecommunications company, has also faced disruptions. Sky News reportedly went off-air briefly in the UK due to the outages, leaving viewers without access to its broadcast. According to The Guardian UK, the widespread outage has been linked to issues with Windows workstations. Microsoft 365 users experienced difficulties accessing cloud-based apps on Friday, according to The Guardian UK. To discuss this, I'm joined by an IT system administrator, Emmanuel Erondu. Hello, Emmanuel. It's a pleasure to have you in our studio.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Okay, so go ahead and tell us, Emmanuel, what are the primary causes of such a widespread global IT outage affecting multiple industries simultaneously?
Yes, this outage was caused by a very serious faulty update that was deployed by a firm called CrowdStrike. They provide IT cybersecurity services. They provide end-to-end securities for businesses and organizations. They sort of like act as a middleman between organizations and their employee systems, providing VPNs, antivirus protection, and so other services to these companies. So what happened was that this faulty update causes the systems to crash and reboot. Some were stuck in a reboot loop, and most systems were just grounded.
Okay. Now, Emmanuel, how do you think businesses can prepare for and also mitigate the impact of global IT outages on their operations?
Well, an outage of this kind of magnitude stems from the fact that most of these businesses and organizations rely on third-party software for their cybersecurity. And when you rely on third-party software, you are at the mercy of those third-party services and all their services that they would deploy, their updates. So this dependency on third-party software creates these vulnerabilities in the sense that if the third-party software that your service relies heavy on has any problem or a faulty update, as this case would be, you would be grounded. And mitigating against this would be very tricky, except your service provider has rectified it on their own end. You would be stuck in limbo and have to wait for them to provide a fix.
All right, Emmanuel. Now, the report said the outage, has been linked to issues with Windows workstations. Now, what specific vulnerabilities in Windows workstations could have contributed, to this outage, and how can they be addressed?
Okay, this outage is not attributed to any vulnerability. However, this outage was caused by a faulty file. Actually, this was a legitimate file, a legitimate service, just that maybe the software programmers introduced a fault in the system that caused the systems to become unstable and crash. So it's not like a vulnerability in any way.
All right. Now, how can airlines, transportation, as well as broadcast media companies improve their IT infrastructure to prevent similar disruptions in the future?
Okay, as always, ensure you have a backup plan or a parallel service, most probably running on an alternative operating system. If this outage affected Windows users, if your company had an alternative operating system running on Linux, you would have been able to switch onto Linux and continue your services. So to mitigate against outages like this, companies must ensure that they have failovers and backup infrastructure.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Emmanuel, for speaking to us on this.
Thank you.
With that, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back. Stay with us. In business, the Dangote refinery and petrochemicals company has not been issued any license by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority to operate in the country, and as such, it is operating illegally. The authority chief executive, Farouk Ahmed, revealed this during an interview in Abuja. Farouk said the allegations raised by Dangote refinery that its operations are being scuttled owing to lack of supply of crude oil by international oil companies are untrue.
There are a lot of concerns about supply of petroleum products nationwide, and the claims by some media houses that we're trying to scuttle Dangote refinery. That is not so. Dangote refinery is still in the pre-commissioning stage. It has not been licensed yet. We haven't licensed them yet. They are still in pre-commissioning. I think they're about 45% completion rather. So we cannot rely heavily on one refinery to feed the nation. because the Dangote is requesting that we should suspend or stop all importation of petroleum products, especially AGO and jet kero, and direct all marketers to the refinery. That is not good for the nation in terms of energy security, and that is not good for markets because of monopoly. So, in terms of quality, currently the AGO quality in terms of sulfur is the lowest as far as West African requirement of 50 ppm. Dangote refinery, as well as some modular refineries like Walter Smith's refinery, RD refinery, they produce between 650 to 1,200 ppm. So in terms of quality, their quality is much, much inferior to the imported.
In the world of sports, the El Kanemi Warriors will play their 2024-2025 CAF Confederation Cup at the Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abuja. Minister of Sports Development John Eno on Thursday during the media parley with sport writers in Abuja made this known, saying that Borno State government has formally written to them that the 2024 President Federation Cup champions will take the Moshood Abiola Stadium their home and for the CAF Interclub competition. El Kanemi Warriors gained promotion to the Nigeria Premier Football League and also defeated Abia Warriors in President Federation Cup final to emerge champions. El Kanemi Warriors will face Datje FC of Benin Republic in the first preliminary round of the competition between 13th to 15th September, with the second leg coming up between 20th to 22nd September 2024. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that federal government to send executive bill on new minimum wage to the legislature after it reached an agreement with organized labor. We also told you that Nigeria's lawmakers won against planned anti-government protests as House of Reps slashed salaries by 50%. We also told you that Office of Medical Charity, Doctors Without Borders, targeted an armed attack in Burkina Faso. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do you follow us on social media? We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen. Usman.